Hello, hello, hello. So this video is going to be the start of my YouTube. I have a TikTok. It has almost 100,000 followers. I think it has 98K right now. Today is March 14th, 2025. I wanted to start this YouTube because a lot of people, well, number one, a lot of people requested me to make long form videos, and I've been wanting to for a while just because I do really enjoy talking about the things that are important to me. I think I have a lot of wisdom and knowledge to share. So yeah, let's get into the video. So I wanted to get into this phrase, you are what you attract. So many people talk about this, and I feel like nobody really elaborates on what that really means. People say you attract people who are disingenuous. People say you attract people who are not serving you. You attract people who have negative energy. Does that mean you necessarily are those traits? No. But you're attracting the types of people who will tolerate negative behavior from you. Of course, if you are a person who does not value truth-telling, who does not value creativity, who isn't necessarily an authentic person, you're going to attract people who either aren't any of those things, or they are attracted, or they don't mind people being disingenuous. They don't mind people not having a good head on their shoulders. So, for example, I used to have female friendships that were very unhealthy for me. Just because I did not want to be one of those girls who didn't have any female friends. I felt like I needed to surround myself with some women. I felt like I needed to have feminine energy around me. But especially at that age, I was a teenager at the time. I still am a teenager. But especially within teenage years, there's a lot of young women who are trying to figure themselves out. There's a lot of young women who don't necessarily understand what true, authentic confidence looks like. So you get a lot of disingenuous and jealous women around you, especially when you're somebody who tries to exude confidence to the best of their ability. I have never been a person who had malicious intentions inherently. I was always very focused on trying to be better, trying to become the best version of myself, but that doesn't always mean that I had the right methods. So when I say that I was surrounding myself with people who were not necessarily good for me in the way that they were tolerating negative behavior from my end and tolerating toxic behavior on my end, I mean that I was a person who was constantly lying because I knew that it could get me out of things easier. And I would be honest about that portion with people. I felt like I shouldn't have to tell the truth if I knew that the lie was the easier thing to do. So when I was open with these people about that, and they were just, just do what you gotta do, girl, just as long as you're not doing it to me, that's a very selfish and single-minded way of thinking. These people do not want you to grow. These people do not want you to become the best version of yourself. If you're around people who will tolerate toxic behavior from you, those people are not there for your growth. They either want you to remain in the place that you're in right now because they don't want you to be better than them, or they reflect those same negative traits within their own personalities. So they don't necessarily care whether you get better because they're not good people themselves. It's when people say you are what you attract, it means that negative energy feeds off of other negative energy, or positive energy feeds off of other positive energy. For example, my friends now are very creative, they're very honest, they're very upfront about how they feel. They're not going to hide anything just because they know that it's going to be easier for them to keep that thing a secret right now. There's so many people who think that there's shortcuts to life. There's so many people who think there's shortcuts to success, to happiness, to all of those things. And it might look that way in the moment. Of course, it's gonna look like it'll be easier for you to scam somebody out of some money when you are broke. When you're thirsty for something, you're gonna jump at the first chance of any source of nourishment that you can find. But this is why I say it's so important to be intentional, because When you have intention, you're able to actually see the long-term effects of whatever you're engaging in, or you can predict it to the best of your ability. It's about making decisions and knowing that you will have the discernment and the intuition to really be able to understand that no matter what happens when you make certain decisions, you're going to be okay, because you know that you're good at making certain kinds of decisions. You need to be able to be comfortable enough with yourself so that you don't necessarily have to make the perfect decision all the time, because you know that you have the ability to adapt to any situation. Does that make sense? I feel like the number one piece of advice that I see online when it comes to young women actually growing into a better version of themselves and like really being authentic within their womanhood is to surround yourself with other authentic women. This is where discernment comes into play, because you really need to be able to understand what a healthy female friendship looks like. You need to be able to understand what energy is healthy for you. I really just want people to be able to trust themselves. I want people to be able to actually do things that are healthy for them. You will literally meet people who are aligned with you and who feed your energy when you're actually doing things that feed your energy. I literally met my current friends doing a photo shoot that was so spur of the moment. We just decided to take out the camera and take pictures in our hotel room. Literally, those girls who I did that photo shoot with, they are the people who are closest to me right now. And I really, really, really am so appreciative of the way that I met them, of the way that I got close with them, because we got close doing something that we all loved. We didn't have to tell each other that we value creativity because we met each other doing something creative. Does that make sense? You need to be able to see in these people's actions that they really value the same things that you do. And when you become a more evolved version of yourself, you're not going to have to necessarily seek these things out actively. You're going to be able to draw them in towards you. I didn't plan to become friends with those girls. I was just somebody who was willing to engage in something that seemed attractive to me at the time. And this is why I say it's so important to be honest with other people, and it's so important to be honest with yourself, because honesty will get you so much further than you realize. Honesty is never going to result in negativity. Honesty will free you in the long run. I feel like so many people are afraid of accountability. So many people are afraid of really taking ownership of their faults. Accountability will free you more than you have ever known. Literally, I did not start being completely comfortable with myself until I held myself accountable, until I owned up to the things that I knew I messed up on. I know that people view accountability as something to be afraid of because they don't necessarily have a good relationship with their ego. This is why I think it's really important to say that you should build a good relationship with your ego instead of killing it, because ego isn't necessarily bad. You just need to know how to balance it. And when your ego is the thing that's leading you, of course you're going to make decisions where the people around you think you're selfish, the people around you think that you don't know how to take accountability for your actions, that you don't know how to grow. When ego is the thing that's leading you, you will stay stagnant. You will be 25 years old to 50 years old, however old you are. You're going to keep getting older and still act like a teenager because you don't necessarily know how to say, I did this thing and it wasn't healthy for me or for the people around me, and I need to stop and I need to find new practices that actually help me become a better person and actually push me forward. When you're able to balance your ego with your conscience, you'll find that you have more authentic experiences that actually fulfill you, and you'll be able to look back at past versions of yourself and be like, wow, I actually really have come so far. It'll start to help you financially. It will start to help you career-wise. It will start to help you in terms of the relationships that you form, friendships, and romantic relationships. This literally looks different for everybody because we don't always have the same negative habits as the people around us. But one thing that I will say that I see consistently within young people is this resistance towards accountability. And so while I'm very, very supportive of people standing firm in their decisions. This is where discernment is very important, because you need to be able to use discernment towards yourself and towards other people. Reflect on your situations. Reflect on the feelings that you have after you see certain people. Reflect on the feelings that you have after you make certain decisions. That is going to tell you so much more than you will ever realize. Literally, just reflect. Listen to your intuition, listen to your discernment, and allow yourself to really grow. Because nobody who has ever gotten far in life has done so by acting like they don't make mistakes, by acting like they have always been perfect. If you're perfect, there's nowhere to go from there. So nobody should want to be perfect. True perfection does not exist. So I believe that a realistic version of perfection is somebody who is constantly willing to evolve. If you're not willing to evolve and grow into a more refined version of yourself, then you're never going to be perfect. Then you're not perfect in this moment. Perfection really only exists within true potential. Does that make sense? If you can't grasp it, then it's not real. But literally, and I mean this, the unevolved version of yourself is a prison. You're not able to evolve, so you're going to stay there forever. Why would you want that? Literally, when people talk about peaking, when people talk about being in their prime, that's a prison. If you think that you're in your prime right now, what are you allowing to grow? Where is the room for growth if you're in your prime right now? That's why I never ever say that. I believe that the whole belief that youth is your prime period, that's so patriarchal, and it makes it so that people don't necessarily believe that the later stages of their lives are also going to be fulfilling. Of course, youth is beautiful, but it's not the only thing that's beautiful. That's another conversation though. I'm saying don't be so obsessed with being perfect. Don't be so obsessed with being so comfortable with who you are right now that you don't allow yourself to go anywhere from there. This video is 22 minutes and 46 seconds long now. So obviously I'm gonna edit some here and there and cut that down, but yeah, I really hope that you guys got what I meant for you to get out of this video. If you have any other topics that you'd like for me to discuss, put them in the comments. And I may not do them, but I'd still like to hear what you'd like to hear. You can follow me on Instagram if you don't already, amara.keone. I'll put it in the description box. And obviously, if you're not coming from TikTok, my short form little rants are over there. My page is also going to be in the description box. So yeah.